you sent me a podcast about circumcision. Would we
I wondered if we go there. Yes, we can go there. Yes,
if you're willing to.
Yep.
Only if.
Yep.
And I'll frame it like this, which is, I'm not circumcised, and
congratulations.
That was a choice my parents made. My father wasn't, or was. And I haven't even really talked to my mum about this. And like a lot of men, not really spent much time thinking about it.
You ask your mum about what they were thinking. Was it a conscious decision?
Yeah.
Or was it just like Dad,
no, I think
your dad's
not,
your uncles are not.
My father was circumcised, but my brother and I weren't.
Yeah, it's interesting to ask you.
Because that's his to share.
Hmm.
It was a Daniel Prince and Ben Howard conversation. Shout out to both those guys. I've learned a lot from them over the years with the content that's gone out, and Ben with his business and stuff. But the way that Ben was describing it, it was very, very, very hard to listen to because of how fucking full on it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's intense.
And I'll let you take it from there, Nathan, because it's something you've introduced me to as this is as dark and light as it gets, right? This is as intense as it gets.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is, I think, an example of a rabbit hole I never would have didn't even know it existed. And then listening to that podcast with Princey and Ben Howard, two guys I respect tremendously, and it's like, oh, okay, they're talking about this. I wonder if there's anything in it. So I listened to it, and it's like, gee, wow. And Ben Howard is an incredible source of knowledge on that front, just oceans of knowledge. And some of it I've been able to kind of pick up and think about. But where to start? I suppose we tend to accept, I think in the Western world, we accept that female genital mutilation and the motivation behind that is horrific. But you raise the issue of male genital mutilation, and people will laugh at you. Women in particular, if I'm just laugh at you, and guys will too. What are you talking about? No one even knows it's a thing. But yet you've got babies who might be hours or days old, baby boys, who are having their genitals mutilated without any anaesthetic, without any consent, of course, and really with their parents not making any conscious decision, and certainly not with any sort of valid information in many cases, that this is something that they should be doing. And there are active campaigns and government funding to promote it. And it's irreversible. Like you have just mutilated a young baby boy, in the most sort of sensitive and at his physical core in a way that is irreversible for his life. And yet we just tolerate this. We think, oh, it's normal, it's necessary, it's a health thing, it's a hygiene thing, it's a cosmetic thing. And we laugh about it when anyone says, well, hang on, this shouldn't be happening. It's incredible.
And why does it happen?
Oh, mate, hitting dark today. Where to go? Well, I guess a few things to say. Let me just speculate a couple of things, all right?
Mate, absolutely. What I'm most intrigued in is like intuition and organic conversation. So really, whatever comes to mind, let's do it.
Well, we could say it's a humiliation ritual. We could say it's a
ritual.
Yeah, we could say it's a kind of initiation into slavery. We could say it's a way of, in a sense, emotionally neutering.
Yeah,
men.
Stunting. Yeah.
Stunting men. Yep. And then, male baby boys' foreskins are used in cosmetic procedures. Wow. So celebrities, for example, and there's evidence of this on the Oprah Winfrey Show, celebrities boasting and laughing, females laughing about using baby boy or extracts from baby boys' foreskins in cosmetics. It's a big business, mate. It's a big business. Yeah, there's there are a lot of financial incentives for hospitals and doctors to do this, particularly in America. America's sort of the root of all these things, it seems, funnily.
Wow. The land of the free.
Yeah. So there's a couple of thoughts on, why it might be happening. So I think it's a mixture of, like many things, like ignorance and then manipulation by hidden hands at the time.
And because it's this, I mean, oh my God, it's quite intense for me too, actually.
Well, you got away with it, mate. You haven't had to suffer it.
No, but that's absolutely true. I'm an uncircumcised man, but what I have a 5-month-old baby boy, and I clean his nappy every day. And after that podcast you sent me, I was like, "Fuck me," because Ben talks about how like literally 50% of the penis is removed, and I'm like, imagine basically chopping this in half, right? Fucking now,
16 square inches. Imagine like 4 inches of skin.
And I think if I could draw something from this, it's almost the key here is we'll never know exactly why it's happening. And what we can do is control what's within our vicinity. I immediately get drawn to the idea of like, a cosmetics business basically making shitloads of money. It's like, that's a very obvious incentive as to why it might be done. But it's the sense of complete autopilot in which it gets done that I think is so extraordinary, where people just don't think about it, or it's so deeply ingrained as to be normal. Why? And it's like, okay, how many other areas of your life is this going on? Well, one is we're all getting raped by taxes everywhere, every year, but we think we're free.
Yeah.
Like that is a complete dichotomy, right? You've already highlighted that. Another area would be infant vaccinations. Like just pumping these kids full of shit, right? From day one. And parents are like, I've got to have childcare.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what are the impacts of all of those vaccinations over the first 15 years of their life? Can you give me a study that puts them all in one? They don't have it, right?
No.
And even the ones they do have studies of, it's the individual impacts of them, and they're paid for by the people that make money out of selling these things. And so I guess it's this sense of sleepwalking. And it really is like the Matrix, right? It's just, whoa.
The Matrix was a documentary. My 10-year-old lad, thank God, his mother and I decided not to have him circumcised, but we weren't aware of all this. I guess we had a somewhat of a kind of natural health anti-intervention bent, but we didn't know the sort of extent and the kind of horror of what was put in front of us at that time. And thank God we dodged it. And that's the biggest thing, like we talk about money, we talk about nutrition, all these things. This is a rabbit hole 12 months ago I wasn't even aware of. And all that same mentality of incentives, the darkness, the sleepwalking, all applies. And people like you and me are completely oblivious to it. So how many other things out there are there that we're completely ignorant of, that if we were to become awake to,
you ask a very challenging question. One of the reasons I'm doing this podcast is to have hard conversations. I'm sure there are people out there that are doing podcasts and they've got a very specific type of person they want as a guest who has to have a certain number of digital followers.
That ain't me, mate. I'm not sure.
No, it's not.
I'm not sure I've cracked any followers.
This is probably already one of the best podcasts I've done in the first 20, right? Because this is real. This is seriously fucking real. And that's what this is all about. So I wonder, like, how do we survive? Like, what is the toolkit to navigate this stuff? What's worked well for you, for example?
Yeah. Just to round off on that circumcision topic, so you should definitely have Ben Howard
on the pod. Yeah, sure.
If you've not done already,
I haven't.
So that's become a real passion of his and almost like a life objective to raise awareness, to promote technologies and other things in that space to try and, I guess, firstly wake us all up, and then to take steps to prevent this kind of stuff. In terms of what guys can do about it, if you have been circumcised, in terms of what you can physically do, it is entirely possible to restore your foreskin. And there are small businesses that will sell you the equipment to do that. You should talk with Ben about that. He'll talk about it far more eloquently than me. And I should say, aside from Ben, there are a number of other guys across different countries that are really expert in this area. And yeah, I've gotten into that, and I suppose I'm sort of in the process of doing it, getting some decent results. It's not a short-term process. You've got to be reasonably committed, and it's going to take 12 months plus to get going. And then, so for guys who wanting to go down that path or experiment on that path, that's what we're doing. And in terms of the benefits, sex is supposed to be more pleasurable for your girl, for yourself. It's really hard for us because we don't know what we missed out on. 16 square inches of the most sensitive nerve endings in the body. Well, that sounds like that could be pretty good. So you can do that. And then there's a company called Foreskin, Foregen. That is a venture company that is working on surgically reattaching, or sort of, how would you say, surgically regenerating foreskins using stem cells. So that's where the intention is you'll get the full sensitivity, the full experience of having an intact foreskin through their surgical process. Now, they've had very successful animal trials using sheep, and I'm told that they are commencing human trials this year. So we'll be really interested to see how that all progresses. Hopefully it's successful. The procedures are refined, relatively, sort of light kind of surgery. You're just sort of implanting stem cells, and then that will grow over time into an intact foreskin. So, but Foreskin's kind of the only company out there that's doing it, because people just aren't aware. So getting the funding and getting the scientists and so forth to focus on it is a challenge. But it's very interesting that sort of research is happening. And if you're a guy who was mutilated as a baby or as a child, or even as an adult, that happens as well, and you're interested in looking into this, then Foreskin's well worth a look, to keep an eye on the space.
Well, thank you for sharing, Nathan. It's a really important topic to speak about.